There's a particular kind of silence that happens when a younger woman looks at an older man a little too long. Not the polite kind of eye contact. I mean the kind where she looks away, then looks back. And for a second, he doesn't know what to do with it. Maybe you've been there. You're sitting across from her, and you're trying to convince yourself you're imagining things. You tell yourself she's just being friendly. Maybe she's naturally warm. Maybe she's like that with everyone. Because admitting the possibility feels strangely dangerous. Not because you don't like the idea, because you do. And that's where things get complicated. A younger woman showing interest can wake up something in a man that he thought had gone quiet years ago. Not just attraction. Something deeper. The feeling of being noticed, chosen, still capable of making someone's attention linger. And sometimes, that feeling is so powerful that a man either rushes toward it or runs from it completely. If you've ever wondered whether a younger woman was genuinely interested in you, stay with me, because there are a few small behaviors that can reveal more than obvious flirting ever will. And if these conversations about relationships, confidence, and the things people rarely say out loud are useful to you, you can subscribe. I'd like to have you here. Now, imagine you're talking to her after everyone else has left. Nothing dramatic is happening. She's asking you ordinary questions. How long have you lived here? What do you do? Why did you never marry? And then she asks something that feels slightly more personal than the conversation requires. You answer. She listens, really listens. And when you finish, there's this tiny pause. Not awkward, just present. You notice she's still looking at you. And suddenly you're aware of your own hands, your voice, your age. You wonder, did she mean something by that? Then you go home and replay the entire conversation. That one question, that one smile, the way she stood a little closer. You tell yourself you're being ridiculous, but you keep thinking about it anyway. There's something almost nobody notices here. A younger woman may not always show interest by becoming more obvious. Sometimes she becomes more curious. She wants to know the man behind the age. And that distinction matters. Because if you're older, you may assume the age difference is the most important thing she's thinking about. She may not be thinking about it nearly as much as you are. You might be sitting there thinking, why would she want someone like me? While she's sitting there wondering why you keep treating her interest like it couldn't possibly be real. And that can create a strange little dance. She gives you a signal. You hesitate. She gives you another. You become even more cautious. Eventually, she may pull back, not because the attraction disappeared, but because she doesn't know whether you're interested in her at all. And now both people are confused. But there's another possibility, a much more uncomfortable one. Sometimes what an older man interprets as attraction isn't really about attraction. Sometimes it's admiration. Sometimes it's comfort. Sometimes it's simple warmth. And sometimes, yes, it really is attraction. The difficult part is that no single gesture can tell you which one you're looking at. That's why the man who watches for one magical sign usually gets lost. You have to watch what happens across time. Does she keep finding reasons to continue the conversation? Does she remember little things you mentioned weeks ago? Does she seem especially interested in your life rather than simply enjoying your attention? Does she create opportunities to be around you? And perhaps most importantly, does her behavior stay warm when you don't give her anything back? Because that's where things become revealing. If her interest disappears the moment you stop feeding her attention, you may have been experiencing something very different from genuine connection. But if she remains curious even when you're not performing, flirting, impressing, or trying to prove yourself, that's different. And this is where many older men make a surprising mistake. They become younger versions of themselves. They start trying to impress her. They talk more. They joke more. They become unusually available. They start checking their phone. And suddenly the man who originally caught her attention, the calm, grounded man who wasn't trying to win anything, has disappeared. He doesn't realize it yet, but she's watching. Not just how much he wants her. She's watching what happens to him when he realizes he might actually have a chance. And that is where the entire dynamic can change. There's something a little heartbreaking about watching a man become nervous around a woman he doesn't actually need to impress. He'll sit across from her, perfectly composed with everyone else. Then she smiles at him. And suddenly he's choosing every word. He starts wondering whether he's too old, whether she's being polite, whether other people are noticing, whether she's going to regret showing interest, and without realizing it, he stops being present. He's no longer having a conversation with her. He's having a conversation with the version of himself he thinks she might be judging. That's a very different experience. You may recognize this. She sends you a message, nothing dramatic. Did you get home okay? You read it. You smile. Then you put the phone down, pick it up again, type something, delete it, type something else, delete that too, because somewhere along the way, her attention has become a test of your worth. And that's where age can become psychologically complicated. An older man may carry a history that she can't see, a divorce, a relationship that ended badly, years of feeling overlooked, maybe a marriage where he slowly became more like a provider than a partner, maybe years of dating where he learned to expect rejection before it happened. So, when a younger woman shows interest, he's not simply responding to her, he's responding to everything that came before her. That's why the same woman can make one man feel confident and another man feel exposed. The difference isn't necessarily how attractive she is, it's what her attention touches inside him. And this is important. Being desired can feel wonderful, but being desired and feeling worthy are not the same thing. If you need her attraction to prove that you're still valuable, you'll probably become anxious around her. You'll start measuring everything. How quickly she replies, how warmly she speaks, whether she initiates, whether she looked at you when she laughed, and eventually you're not enjoying the connection anymore. You're monitoring it. There's a subtle desperation in that, not the kind people always notice. Sometimes it looks like excessive politeness. Sometimes it looks like trying too hard to be interesting. Sometimes it looks like pretending not to care while secretly caring about every tiny detail. And women can often sense that something has changed, not because they possess some mysterious ability to read men's minds, because people notice emotional pressure. You can feel when someone is simply enjoying your company, and you can feel when they're quietly asking, "Please choose me." Those are very different energies. Now imagine something else. She flirts with you. You notice. You don't panic. You don't immediately decide that this must become something. You simply become a little more open. You tease her back. You ask her a genuine question. You let the conversation breathe. And if she pulls closer, you notice. If she pulls away, you notice that too. No performance, no punishment, no sudden coldness designed to make her chase you. Just information. That's emotional maturity. And it can be deeply attractive because there's room for another person inside it. You aren't trying to control the outcome. You're discovering what is actually there. But there's a reason some older men struggle with this. They've spent years believing confidence means having no uncertainty. It doesn't. Sometimes confidence is being able to say, quietly, "I think she's interested in me, and I'm going to find out without making it bigger than it is." That takes more courage than pretending you don't care. And sometimes the most confident thing you can do is make a small, respectful move. Ask her to have coffee, suggest dinner, tell her you enjoy talking to her. Nothing manipulative, nothing loaded. Just enough honesty to give reality a chance to answer. Because you know what happens when you never do that. You can spend months interpreting glances, weeks rereading messages, years wondering whether that woman was trying to tell you something, when she may have been waiting for you to simply meet her halfway. And there's an even deeper reason some men hesitate. It isn't always fear of rejection. Sometimes it's fear that she might actually say yes, because rejection hurts the ego. But being accepted can challenge your entire sense of identity. If she says no, you can go home and tell yourself the story you already know. She's too young. She wasn't really interested. I probably imagined it. Painful, maybe, but familiar. If she says yes, now you have to decide what you actually want. And that's where things become much more serious. Because attraction is easy to romanticize from a distance. You can imagine her laughing at your stories. You can imagine the messages, the dinners, the way it might feel to have someone younger looking at you with genuine interest. But a real relationship isn't built from that feeling alone. There are differences in life stage, different expectations, different experiences. Sometimes different ideas about marriage, children, lifestyle, money, family, or what the next 10 years should look like. And an age gap doesn't automatically make those differences impossible. It simply means you can't afford to pretend they aren't there. This is one of the places where emotional maturity becomes more important than confidence. You don't have to apologize for your age, but you also don't have to pretend it doesn't matter. You can be interested in her and still ask yourself difficult questions. What does she actually want? What do I actually want? Are we attracted to each other? Or are we attracted to what the other person represents? That's a much harder question, because sometimes a younger woman may be drawn to an older man because he feels calm. He may listen differently. He may not be caught up in proving himself. He may have lived enough life to understand that every disagreement doesn't need to become a battle. But sometimes, an older man can also become attached to the feeling of being needed. And those are not the same thing. You don't want a woman to choose you because you can rescue her from her life. You want to know whether the two of you can actually participate in each other's lives. There's a quiet difference between being someone's safe place and becoming someone's escape. That distinction can take time to see. So don't rush the fantasy. Watch the ordinary moments. How does she behave when she's tired? How do you behave when she disagrees with you? Can you talk about money without either person becoming defensive? Can she tell you no? Can you hear no without becoming distant? Can you disagree without turning the age difference into ammunition? Those moments tell you far more than chemistry does, because chemistry can make two people feel extraordinary for 3 hours. Compatibility has to survive Tuesday morning. And there is another thing I want you to notice. If you're older and she's younger, don't assume that you have to become the authority in the relationship. You don't have to teach her how to live. You don't have to constantly demonstrate wisdom. And you certainly don't have to act younger to keep her interested. If she likes you, let her meet the man you actually are. Not the younger man you used to be, not the older man you think she expects. You, the man who has stories, regrets, preferences, bad habits he's worked on, things he still doesn't understand. That can be far more intimate than trying to appear impressive. And if she is genuinely interested, she won't need you to perform youth. She'll want to know what it feels like to be with you. That's different, because eventually the flirting becomes ordinary. The excitement settles. The messages become less carefully written. You see each other when neither of you looks particularly impressive. And that's when you discover whether the attraction was ever really about age at all. Sometimes it was, sometimes it wasn't. And the answer can be surprisingly liberating, because when you stop asking, why would a younger woman want me? You can finally ask the question that matters more. Do I actually want the woman who is standing in front of me? That question changes everything. Because for a long time, you may have been looking at the situation from the wrong side. You were wondering whether she wanted you, whether she found you attractive, whether the age difference was too much, whether you were somehow getting lucky. But what if you turned the question around? Not arrogantly, not dismissively, just honestly. Do I feel good around her? Do I like the way she treats people? Can I be myself when I'm with her? Do I respect her? And perhaps the most revealing question, would I still want this if nobody else knew about it? That last one can expose a lot, because sometimes an older man doesn't just want the woman. He wants what being chosen by a younger woman seems to say about him. It can feel like proof that he's still attractive, still interesting, still relevant, still capable of starting something new. And there's nothing shameful about enjoying that feeling. But if you confuse the feeling with the relationship, you can walk into something that looks exciting from the outside and feels strangely empty when you're alone together. I've seen this pattern in ordinary human behavior again and again. People can become attached not only to another person, but to who they become in that person's eyes. A man who feels invisible may suddenly feel fascinating. A man who feels stuck may suddenly feel young again. A man who has spent years being responsible for everyone else may suddenly feel wanted for no practical reason at all. That can be intoxicating. But eventually, the intoxication wears off. Then you meet the person, really meet her, and she meets you. That's when the age gap becomes less about numbers and more about two lives. Maybe she wants a future that looks nothing like yours. Maybe you discover that you have surprisingly similar values. Maybe the relationship works beautifully. Maybe it doesn't. None of those outcomes make the attraction foolish. Sometimes a connection can be real, even when it isn't permanent. That's something men don't always give themselves permission to accept. They think if they open the door, they have to know where the hallway leads. You don't. You can move carefully, you can ask questions, you can remain curious, you can let someone surprise you. And if you're worried about looking foolish, remember something. The man who asks respectfully and receives an honest answer has lost very little. The man who spends 6 months constructing theories about a woman's behavior in his head can lose much more: his peace, his time, sometimes his ability to trust his own perception. So if you're sitting there right now thinking about a particular woman, maybe don't replay every smile. Think about the larger pattern. How does she make you feel? Do you feel more relaxed around her? More yourself? Or do you feel like you're auditioning? Because attraction that requires constant performance becomes exhausting, and confidence isn't the absence of nerves. You may still feel nervous. Your heart may still beat faster when she walks into the room. You may still stare at your phone after sending a message and wonder if you said too much. That's human. Confidence is what you do next. You don't punish yourself for caring. You don't punish her for not giving you certainty. You simply stay honest. And there's one final shift that can change the way you see all of this. Stop treating her youth as the most interesting thing about her. If you do that, you may never actually see her, see the person, her humor, her values, her contradictions, her ambitions, her fears, the way she treats a waiter when nobody important is watching, the way she responds when you disagree, the things she gets excited about, and let her see those things in you too. Because a meaningful age gap relationship isn't built when an older man convinces a younger woman that age doesn't matter. It's built when two adults can acknowledge that age does matter in some ways, and still discover that something between them matters more. And once you understand that, there's one last trap you have to avoid. It happens quietly, usually after the attraction becomes obvious. And strangely enough, it has almost nothing to do with her. It has to do with the story you've been telling yourself about what a woman like her could possibly see in you. Maybe you've been asking the wrong question this entire time. Not why would she want me, but why have I decided that she shouldn't? Because sometimes the biggest obstacle in an age gap relationship isn't the age gap. It's the meaning you attach to it. You see a younger woman smiling at you and immediately start looking for an explanation. Maybe she's just being friendly. Maybe she's bored. Maybe she's interested in someone else. Maybe she likes older men. Maybe she's trying to get something from me. You create 10 explanations before allowing yourself to consider the simplest one. Maybe she likes me. And I understand why. Hope can be uncomfortable when you've learned not to trust it, especially if you've been hurt before. You become good at protecting yourself. You call it realism. Sometimes it is. But sometimes realism is just fear wearing a very intelligent outfit. And there's a difference. If she's showing consistent interest, you don't need to turn it into a fantasy. You also don't need to talk yourself out of it. You can simply respond. Warmly, respectfully, slowly. Let reality tell you what your imagination cannot. Maybe she says yes. Maybe she says no. Maybe she says she's interested but isn't looking for anything serious. Maybe you discover that the two of you want completely different lives. That's all information. None of it determines your worth. And that may be the part I most want you to remember. Her attraction doesn't make you valuable. Her rejection doesn't make you worthless. Her age doesn't make you younger. Her attention doesn't make you important. You were already a whole person before she looked at you. And if you can genuinely remember that, something changes in the way you carry yourself. You stop chasing confirmation. You stop studying every movement. You stop trying to become the man you think she wants. You become curious about whether the two of you fit. That's a quieter kind of confidence. You might still feel that little rush when she walks toward you. Good. You don't have to kill that feeling. Enjoy it. Just don't hand it the steering wheel. Because there is something beautiful about being surprised by attraction later in life. Maybe you thought that part of you was finished. Maybe you had become comfortable with routine, work, family, responsibilities, the same restaurants, the same conversations. And then someone comes along and suddenly you're noticing things again. You're choosing a shirt more carefully. You're looking forward to Thursday. You're catching yourself smiling at your phone. You feel a little ridiculous. And maybe that's okay. You don't have to be embarrassed that you're alive, but stay awake. Don't confuse excitement with compatibility. Don't confuse admiration with intimacy. Don't confuse being desired with being known. And don't assume the younger woman has no idea what she's doing simply because she's younger. She may be uncertain, she may be curious, she may be very clear about what she wants. Give her the dignity of being a person, rather than turning her into a symbol of youth, validation, or your second chance. And give yourself the same dignity. You don't need to compete with younger men. You don't need to prove that you've still got it. You don't need to behave 20 years younger. If she is genuinely interested, she gets to meet the man standing in front of her, and you get to decide whether you like the woman standing in front of you. That's the part older men sometimes miss. They become so focused on whether they're being chosen that they forget they are choosing too. So if this is happening to you right now, take a breath. Look again. Not at her age, not at your insecurity, not at the imagined opinions of strangers. Look at the actual person. Listen to what she says, notice what she consistently does, and notice who you become around her. If you're calmer, more honest, more curious, more yourself, then perhaps there's something worth exploring, carefully, respectfully, without guarantees, because sometimes, much later than we expect, life puts a door in front of us that we didn't know we were still hoping to find. And the question isn't whether you're too old to walk through it. The question is much simpler. When you finally realize that she's been leaving the door open, will you have enough confidence to stop standing outside it?